Imagine walking into a grand dining hall, the air thick with the scent of roasted meat, rich spices, and fresh bread. You take a seat at the high table, expecting a feast fit for a king. But before you can grab a bite, you notice something strange. The bread you're about to eat is gray, heavy, and potentially laced with a toxic fungus that causes hallucinations. The fresh meat has been heavily salted and buried under a mountain of pepper just to mask the fact that it's weeks old. And that goblet of wine? It's sour, watered down, and sweetened with lead. Welcome to medieval England, a world where your social status didn't just dictate the clothes on your back, it literally determined whether your next meal would keep you alive or slowly poison you from the inside out. To understand the medieval diet, we have to split society wide open. There was no middle class, there was the starving majority and the gluttonous few. If you were a peasant, making up over 90% of the population, your daily survival revolved around a single bubbling clay pot. This was the home of pottage. Pottage was a thick, generic stew made from whatever could be scraped together: oats, barley, cabbage, onions, and leeks. If it grew in the dirt near your hovel, it went into the pot. The pot almost never stopped boiling. Fresh ingredients were simply tossed on top of yesterday's leftovers. Meat was a rare luxury. A peasant might taste bacon or a bit of preserved pork once a week if they were lucky. Otherwise, their protein came from white meats, which didn't mean chicken, but rather milk, butter, and cheese. But if you climbed the social ladder to the nobility, the menu transformed into a theatrical display of wealth and power. For the rich, eating wasn't about nutrition, it was about dominance. A noble feast featured dynamic, towering dishes designed to shock the senses. We are talking about roasted peacocks served with their feathers meticulously sewn back on, wild boar heads grinning on silver platters, and pies that, when cut open, released live birds into the hall. Enjoying this deep dive into the darker side of history? Before we uncover the bizarre religious food laws that controlled everyone's appetite, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Join our community here at Better with Salma, where we unearth the true stories history books left out. Drop a comment below. Would you have survived on a medieval diet? Let us know, and let's get back to the feast. Water in medieval England was a gamble. Without proper sewage systems, natural water sources were frequently contaminated with human and animal waste. To avoid dysentery, everyone, from toddlers to the elderly, drank ale or beer. Peasants drank a weak, cloudy brew called small beer all day long, providing them with much-needed calories to fuel hours of back-breaking labor. The rich looked down on ale, opting instead for imported wines, which they often spiced with ginger, cloves, and cardamom to cover up the taste of spoilage. Then came the centerpiece of every meal, bread. But even bread was a weapon of class warfare. The elite ate manchet, a fine, bright white bread made from triple-sifted wheat. It was soft, expensive, and a status symbol. The peasants ate maslin, a dark, dense bread made from rye and barley. This rye bread carried a hidden, deadly threat. During damp summers, rye crops were easily infected by a fungus called ergot. If a peasant family milled infected rye into their flour, they contracted ergotism, commonly known as St. Anthony's fire. The symptoms? Excruciating burning sensations, wild hallucinations, convulsions, and eventually gangrene that literally caused limbs to rot and fall off. A simple loaf of bread could trigger a localized epidemic of madness and death. Food wasn't just governed by your wallet, it was strictly regulated by the Almighty. The medieval Catholic Church held absolute authority over the kitchen calendar. Nearly half the days of the year, including every Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, plus the seasons of Lent and Advent, were designated as fast days. On these days, eating meat was a sin punishable by penance or worse. For the peasants, this meant a miserable shift to dry cheese and salted herring. But the rich found ingenious, highly dramatic loopholes. Since the church banned meat from four-legged terrestrial animals, noble cooks turned to the water. They classified beaver tails, barnacle geese, and puffins as fish because they spent time in or near the water, allowing the rich to feast on meat while technically remaining sinless. If you sat at a noble table, the most overwhelming sensation wouldn't be the taste of the food, but the sheer stinging heat of spices. Medieval elites loaded their dishes with astronomical amounts of pepper, cinnamon, nutmeg, mace, and saffron. This wasn't just a culinary preference, it was the ultimate flex. Spices had to travel thousands of miles along the Silk Road and maritime trade routes, making them more valuable than gold by weight. Covering a roast duck in saffron and ginger told your guests one thing: I am so wealthy I can afford to literally eat money. Furthermore, medical science at the time, based on the ancient Greek theory of the four humors, dictated that food needed to be perfectly balanced. Since pork was considered cold and moist, it had to be heavily roasted and smothered in hot and dry spices to prevent it from corrupting the human stomach. From the hallucinogenic rye bread of the peasant to the gold leaf-covered swans of the king, eating in medieval England was a high-stakes game of survival, status, and superstition. Every bite carried a story of class divide, religious law, or chemical danger. The next time you complain about a boring meal, just remember, at least your dinner won't give you St. Anthony's fire, and you didn't have to classify a beaver as a fish just to get through Friday. If you want to keep exploring the hidden, dark, and fascinating truths of the past, make sure to like this video and share it with a fellow history lover. Click on the screen right now to watch our next deep dive into history's most gripping mysteries. Thank you for watching, stay curious, and we'll see you in the next video.